this principal in my second year of teaching. She got up in a faculty meeting one day. She was like, teachers, y'all need to shut up. I'm walking in these classrooms and I'm just hearing y'all talk the whole time. These kids' attention span is equal to their age.
Love the fact that you are building out the platform, the podcast, having the conversation. I think you're a great example because keynotes aren't every day.
Everything that you deal with serves you, because that right there, that's what's going to keep you going. And then one day you'll be like, oh, that thing that happened right there, now I can use that to maybe help this entity, help this audience, help this individual.
How do you measure success of a keynote? What makes you look back and say, okay, like this was a successful engagement?
Getting feedback from the audience, whether they're coming up to you afterwards and they're like, man, that really hit home, or I like what you said about such and such, or, you know, I just liked how you kept it real, your authenticity.
We are back with another episode of Free Speaker Game here at Black Speakers Network. We haven't met yet. My name is Brian Oles, president and founder here at Black Speakers Network, and I'm joined with the one and only Mills Rodgers. You got you repping the brand, and no secret to the speaker game, no secret to Black Speakers Network. How you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be here.
Well, we need to talk. We need to have a whole conversation about branded merch, because I love when the messenger is the message badge. So you know how it is on Free Speaker Game. We like to dive into strategies, tools, resources that are working for speakers now, you know, and obviously this is a space that's ever evolving. So thank you so much for jumping on. For those who have not met you yet, can you just give maybe a 1 to 2 minute background on, you know, what your speaking topic is, a little bit about your background, and anything else you want to share just to help folks get a sense of who you are and what your message is focused around?
I like to say that I help educators meet the needs of students. Needs is an acronym. It's a framework that I've come up with. And so with that being said, my background is in education. I spent 15 years as a public school educator in San Antonio, Texas. And toward the end of my teaching career, I kind of got the bug to speak. And what's crazy is I didn't even know people would get paid to speak and all this other stuff. But I remember one day I was sitting in a faculty meeting. Actually, it's back to school. And our principal had been saying, man, we got to get this one speaker. He's so great and everything. And so they actually had gotten him. And honestly, it was very anticlimactic to me. He did not live up to the hype.
Like the presentation.
Yeah, the presentation was just, I don't know, it just was nothing special about it. And even one of the teachers was like, man, Mr. Rodgers, they paid that man all that money. They could have got one of us. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you on that. But even with that, you know, my mind at the time wasn't even considering speaking or presenting or anything like that. But then through some challenges I experienced and everything, I got moved in the direction of, hey, I want to make my own money. I want to determine my own destiny. And I eventually stepped out on faith and went into speaking full time. And here I am today. So that's kind of a very Cliff Notes version of it. Of course, it can go a lot deeper than that, but you know, hey, we got time constraints.
Yeah, and you're still in the education market, right? Primarily,
yes.
Speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Is that college, university, or K through 12? What's kind of been your focus, and how did you arrive at that as a focal point?
That's been an evolution. And so when I first got into speaking, when I first got into it, I was looking at doing PD for educators, speaking on special education.
PD is professional development for folks that don't know, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Professional
awesome.
development, training, basically. And then I'm like, man, you know, I got hyped up seeing some of these guys like Les Brown and Eric Thomas. And I'm like, man, I want to do the motivational stuff. And people kept telling me, man, you need to write a book. And so I did write a book. And don't you know, that really helped me get into the motivational space. And so I started speaking more at colleges, to upper bound programs, or what they call TRIO programs. So upper bound student support services, they fall under that umbrella. And so I did a lot of speaking in the college space for about 3 years. And then I started looking at myself. I'm like, man, you're getting older, and you don't want to kind of play yourself out in that market. And so, I'm thinking forward, like, you know what, man, I got all this experience in education. Let me pivot back to that because there's a lot longer, more longevity in that space as opposed to maybe as a college speaker, especially with the age. And so I've done that, and that's where I'm at today.
And college university, they typically want speakers that are closer to the student's age, or do you feel like you kind of age out at like 35? How does that work?
I wouldn't say that young, at 35,
I don't
because
know.
I
That's
mean,
why.
yeah, yeah.
Because I'm like,
I
do
mean,
you look? If is it the like? Do you start looking? Because I mean, you got people walking around college campuses who are professors, and they're in their like their 40s, 50s, or whatever, but you may not be able to tell.
yeah. I mean, it's probably more self-consciousness on my part. And again, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm about to have kids that are these students' age and everything. And so,
Makes sense.
again, just thinking, the long game. And just the fact that, hey, I can go into my 50s and 60s talking to educators, and I have such a wealth of experience in that field. But don't get me wrong. Yes, they got college speakers that are in their 40s, 50s, I'm sure even early 60s, because it's really about the connection. Just
Hmm.
because somebody is younger in age, that doesn't mean that they can connect with the students. And a lot of times, the students are looking for that person that can speak life into them, that can provide wisdom to them, more so in a non-judgmental way. And so any person can do that.
Is there a particular, as you think through, and I know you speak a lot, throughout the year, is there a venue that you prefer? Like when you think about, you know, like traditional keynote speaking to conferences and, large companies and things like that, or even at a college, potentially, versus like a workshop, or seminars and things of that nature. Is there a format of speaking that you prefer, like like kind of like a Captain America, I can do this all day type of presentation style for you?
I mean, I like them all. Honestly, I think a keynote, though, that's what we typically think about as speakers, being on the big stage in front of a lot of people. To me, my opinion, it's easy, because you're typically going in there, you're speaking for an hour to 90 minutes for a keynote, and then you're up out of there. And so
Minus
that's
minus
kind of,
travel time.
yeah, minus travel time. And so that's kind of the glamour job of the speaking industry, being that keynote speaker. Now, the workshops are pretty cool because, from my experience, that's where you can get the repeat business, especially if you're offering multiple workshops. And so, yeah, if I go into a place and I do really well with a training, a workshop, and I'm like, hey, I got this other workshop that I can offer, guess what? They're likely going to bring me back.
Hmm.
So I like that component of it too.
Yeah,
So
because you don't hear about keynotes. Typically, if you're being brought in for a keynote, you may get rehired, or the organization may bring you back, but they're not going to have you keynote every single year. They're going to bring in somebody else.
correct. Yeah, it's extremely rare that a conference association is going to bring in the same keynote year after year or 2 years straight. It might be 4 years or 5 years down the line, but yeah, that's not going to happen.
So for you, like when you're approaching engagements, and again, this is free speaker game, so whatever you feel like sharing, but I think, how do you measure success of a keynote? So like, um obviously you're getting, paid, you're getting leads, potentially there's opportunities. Some stage let you sell, some don't, some let you capture contact information, some don't. But for you, when you're getting on a plane or you get back home after, like, leaving it all on the stage, what makes you look back and say, okay, like this was a successful engagement?
Feedback. It's just that simple, feedback, getting feedback from the audience, whether they're coming up to you afterwards and they're like, man, that really hit home, or I like what you said about such and such, or, I just liked how you kept it real, your authenticity, things like that. Now, of course, you can't have 500 people walk up to you and tell you that. And
Facts.
so we have tools, and there's one, Talkadot, that I use pretty much for anything that I do. And so I'll look at that. And so that lets me know right then and there that, on that flight back home or whatever, like, oh, okay, man, that's awesome. That's how they saw it. And yeah, Talkadot has been great for just knowing, where I'm strong at, and then on occasion, like, somebody will be like, oh, you didn't cite enough numbers or something like that, statistics. And so, stuff like that. I'm like, hey, they might have a point. So I throw in a little bit more of those statistics. And so, yeah, that's how I measure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the tool Talkadot. Talkadot's an incredible form or incredible tool tech platform that allows you to essentially be able to get real time audience feedback and then be able to kind of capture that into your own metrics, but also be able to quickly, I believe, repackage it and share it with meeting planners or just capture that written those testimonials and be able to use it for your marketing materials moving forward. So you've kind of embraced the Talkadot and use it as a valuable feedback tool for yourself.
Oh, most definitely. As a feedback tool for myself. And just like what you mentioned, it's closed a number of deals for me because I'm like, hey, I've spoken at such and such place. Here's the feedback. And nobody can dispute it.
Yeah, it's
Now,
like it's not you making it up. Go ahead.
yeah, it's not me making it up. Now, another thing I used to do earlier on, I haven't done it lately, is video testimonials. That's probably even more impactful than Talkadot because no one can dispute someone that's getting on a video saying something good about you. So, yeah.
I used to love being able to bring like a second person to events when practical. It's like, let's say if it's local or something like that, if it's not an official videographer or somebody, even if they had somebody, because the videographer is there for the event. But if you can have somebody there with you, an intern, a colleague, whomever, you're married. So maybe like a wife. I don't know if they do that type of stuff. Haven't experienced that yet, but basically bringing somebody with you who can help not only capture B-roll, but capture those testimonials. So like while you're shaking hands at the end of the presentation, you're able to send them over to somebody and say, hey, go talk to, or if somebody comes up to you after the presentation and they do have great feedback, like, hey, go talk. Would you mind sharing that on camera? I always do because the video testimonials do, particularly when they're in the room, like when they just heard you, they still have that energy. Like if you try to catch it, like, a couple days later, a couple weeks later, it might be hard, but in that time, those are to me, those seem like those are the best time to capture that soundbite.
Yeah, I agree. Some people will tell you, especially maybe if it's an organizer, they'll be like, oh, get back with me in another week or so. Don't do that because you're going to have a hard time tracking them down.
Hmm.
Out of sight, out of mind. Once they use you, they're done with you most of the time. So don't
Facts.
go that route. But in all honesty, there was a number of times I just pulled out my phone from my pocket and been like, hey, do you mind doing a testimonial? Just 30
Yes.
seconds. You don't have to, you don't have to give a monologue or anything like that. 30 seconds on what you thought about my presentation and tell them, hey, I'm going to post it on my website or whatever else. And most people will be okay with it. They'll be fine with it. So just that simple.
Do you feel like did your education background, because speaking in 2026 and beyond, I think we are all distracted, and audiences I feel like are more distracted than ever. Does starting in the education space help you actually overcome those challenges when it comes to keeping an audience's attention? In other words, like the instructional design piece, like creating that hook in the beginning, making sure that, you're structuring your presentation so that people can follow along and not start mentally wandering off.
Heck yeah. I mean, look, I did middle school and high school. And so to teach
Oh,
middle
you did
schoolers
middle
in high
school too.
school, yeah, to
Oh
teach
man.
them 7 periods a day and try to keep them on task 180 something days out of the year to get on a stage and keep people's attention for 60 minutes one time. Oh man, That's a walk in the park, for me. And it goes back to one thing that see this principal in my second year of teaching. She got up in a faculty meeting one day, and she was like, "Teachers, y'all need to shut up. I'm walking in these classrooms and I'm just hearing y'all talk the whole time. I know you're smart. I see the degrees on the wall and everything. These kids' attention span is equal to their age." And so this was middle school. So she
Mm,
was like, 12
mm.
minutes, you need to be switching it up. You can't just be rambling on for 20 minutes straight. These kids are checked out. And so that same principle, and when I say principle, standard, whatever,
Hmm.
not talking
Hmm.
about the actual principle at this point,
Yes.
I use that in my talks when I design my talks. Now, of course, just because somebody's 60 years old doesn't mean that you can talk an hour straight. But generally, for adults, you're looking at about 20 minutes or so before they really start to check out. Like their attention span, will just start to wander after a while. Now, of course, nowadays, because we're so hooked on our devices, me included, our attention spans are pretty short. So we do have to vary it up, whether it just be with, okay, maybe I'm going to show a quick video, or maybe I'm going to get people up for a second. Got to kind of vary it up. And so, yes, that's how I design my presentations to keep people's interest.
I love it. I love it. And then this year, or not this year specifically, but in general, when it comes to figuring out your, I call it like your menu. So like just like you go to a restaurant, you have kind of like your appetizers, you got your entrees, you got desserts. As speakers, we also have like a menu of things that we can provide: coaching, services. But even within the keynote space, depending on what the organization needs, you probably are going to have multiple programs to address different avenues or different tranches of expertise that you are teaching and training on. So for you, how often, like, how do you decide, like, hey, this is a program that I believe, these organizations need, versus, hey, here's what people are asking for. And like, how do you capture and reconcile that, throughout the years? Because I imagine that every speaker, our messages are constantly evolving, right? Like nobody's delivering the same keynote for 20 years. Or some people may, if you're Les Brown, you got a really, really popular one, but you may be taking elements of it and kind of remixing it. So I'm just curious how you approach that process.
Oh man, that's a great question. For myself, I think, and I would say for anyone, we talk about understanding who you're marketing to, understanding your niche. And I think that's a big part of it, because once you start to become, I guess, a specialist in one area, then you start to understand like what the needs are
Hmm.
more and more. And so when you understand what the needs are, then you can say, hey, I'm going to create this to address this specific need. And so that's something that I've experienced. I told you that I started doing professional development for schools. Well, in the midst of that, I started working with Head Start programs.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah,
remember them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, somehow I got hired for a couple of Head Start trainings and everything. And I just saw how my message really seemed to vibe with them. And so I got more and more immersed in that market. And so I started to see like, oh, they have a need in this area. Or, I have a discovery call with an organization, and they're like, hey, we want to bring you in to speak, and we're also having problems in this area. And do you speak on that? And I'm like, no, but maybe I can design something for that,
It falls
based
within
on
your
my experiences.
wheelhouse.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's cool. So a Head Start. So when you're doing professional development, your primary talking to, is it educators specifically, or is it administration, or kind of like a mix?
A mix.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so, what type of topics are they? Because I mean, I imagine their teachers have to do everything. Like, I feel like emotional intelligence, mental health, which I know you got a background. Like, what types of topics like typically bubble up when you're trying to, think about programming for that audience?
Well, for teachers, classroom management is always big. Mental health, like you mentioned, special education is always a big topic. There are so many little subtopics that you can speak on, but those are some of the main ones that come to mind. Professionalism,
Mm-hmm.
because administrators have to deal with teachers not doing the right thing from time to time, and so it's so many topics. I guess in my own space, I'm talking about culture,
Mm-hmm.
campus culture, classroom culture, teacher leadership in the classroom, connection with kids. Again, that professionalism piece. I've also been creating stuff toward engaging fathers in education because I am a dad.
Yes.
And so those are things that I can speak to. And so I think it's important that you have a connection, that you have skin in the game to whatever you're talking about, because that's when that authenticity comes through and people can really sense that. They appreciate that. The worst thing is having a speaker up there that acts like, they walk on water and that they've done nothing wrong in life or that they figured out everything like that. And, the audience starts to feel disconnected in general.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bring in somebody that has actually done it, then you have credibility. You're taking away that excuse that, oh, yeah, that speaker up there, he's saying we got to love on these kids, but he ain't worked a day in school. Whereas, see, I can walk in there and say, hey, I taught 15 years, and I can tell them, look, I get it. I get it. When I see Brian coming down the hallway, there's a time or two that I want to turn away, you know. And the audience loves that because that's the reality of it. That's the in the trenches how it feels, and then so now I have credibility with them. It's not where I'm just talking some pie in the sky stuff.
Yeah, you didn't just read it, but like, oh yeah, here's leadership theory. Like, no, when I was in middle school, like when I had to, deal with, yeah, you're speaking directly to your lived experience, but you're also continuing to add your own skill set, and I'm sure you're continuing learning and still
Oh
developing
yeah.
and everything yourself. But that's really cool. Are you a fan, or do you watch Abbott Elementary?
Oh, I love it. I was disappointed it wasn't on last night. Oh man, I love it, man.
I have a content pitch for you. Because I am just kind of starting to watch it. And as a non-educator, like my entire educational experience, entire experience with education has always been from a student perspective, with a few times kind of serving as guest speaker or whatever at a Morgan State or, a BCCC or wherever. But most of the time I'm in the student seat. And so looking at it from that perspective, like I don't really, there's no way to know how hard someone's job is until you go to do it. But seeing shows like that, even though it's a comedy, you kind of get a sense of how many elements that teachers are responsible for dealing with. And so, my content pitch for you is, I think it would be cool if you or somebody, if you didn't want to do it, like reacted to select scenes from Abbott Elementary as a teaching tool. So like something funny happens. So like, I was watching one the other day where what's Quintaria Brunson's character on there? I forget her name. But she was taking on like a difficult student, and this was kind of a lesson between working with teachers, and you mentioned classroom management. So it's like teachers sometimes think, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I got it. She's like, I got it. And then the other teachers was trying to tell her like, no, this is the worst kid in school. Like if you don't do certain things, she's going to walk all over you. And she it dismissed it, and then this kid like took over. So like, I think anybody that can connect those funny moments to like real world examples probably at a minimum would create engaging content.
Mm, that's a good thought. I mean, I love the show, and I definitely can relate to it. I feel like it's a pretty good portrayal of what happens on a campus. Just the relationships amongst the teachers and the jokes and everything, and then yeah, what happens in classrooms. And so, yeah, that's food for thought. That's something I can definitely provide some sort of commentary or whatever on.
Yeah, hit me offline if you want to talk more. But yeah, I think you would
Hmm.
be perfect for that. Like, because just
Uh-huh.
think, listening to some of the things you're dealing with, and from a professional development perspective, I mean, I remember I was I led professional development for I think I was 6 years with, was it 6 years? I don't know. It starts to lose face, but in the time that I was in PD and a corporate profession, it was, everyone loved like little clips and examples, and so it makes it like easy to relate to. Anywho,
Hmm.
I only got a few minutes left. As you think about speaking in 2026, what is top of mind for you? The world is seems like the labor market is changing. There's all these different things happening. You know, gas is expensive. Some of these are short term problems. Some are systemic. Department of Education has changed. Like, it's just change. So for you, what kind of is on your radar for 2026, and what should other speakers, that are thinking about maybe coming into this education space be thinking about as they try to navigate this space?
I would say just speaking in general, embrace AI. I mean, AI is great. It's here to stay, and I know it's helped me really create new things. It's cut the timelines, and so I know some people are like AI is the devil and all this other stuff. Well, okay, they said the same thing about TV. They said the same thing about airplanes and cars, all these things that we're using, and so you could either be part of it or get left behind, and then you'll realize at some point, like, oh man, I should have been using this. This is great. And so I would say definitely take advantage of what AI has to offer. Try to gather the insights that it can give you, and as far as creating content, creating services, things of that nature. As far as what's going on with the Department of Education and everything, at the end of the day, kids are still going to be going to school. It might look a little bit different, but again, that's where you have to really be observant of the trends that are going on. Teens, people are still going to college. And
Yes.
so again, they're going to need to be supported. And so either, as a person, we have to be able to almost have a level of tunnel vision, like, hey, I'm locked in. I'm going to tune out all the noise. I'm not going to be paying attention to all this rhetoric on social media all the time. You
Hmm.
you do you. You do you. At the same time, though, you have to be open minded as to different things that you're going to try, and you have to also understand that it's rare that if you fail, it's going to be fatal. If you screw up one time, if something doesn't hit, move on to the next thing.
Mm, man. We're this is lessons from the field. This is lessons from the
Hmm.
field, man. Listen, is there anything else that we haven't touched? Obviously, we got to bring you back for more conversations, but is there anything top of mind that you wanted to share or just say before we wrap up?
I mean, I've just been blessed. I've really enjoyed the journey, and I feel like I'm headed to the top. And I think I have some great things in the pipeline that can help a lot of people. And just keep in mind that everything that you deal with serves you, because that right there, that's what's going to keep you going. And then one day you'll be like, oh, that thing that happened right there, now I can use that to
Hmm.
maybe help this entity, help this audience, help this individual. So everything, yes, it serves us. Might not understand it initially, but you live long enough, you start to see like how it does.
Man, great words to end on. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of, and one, I've now had a chance to see your career progression, and it keeps getting better. And I'm going to drop the link to your YouTube channel here as well. Y'all make sure y'all go follow Mills on YouTube. You have done some great interviews. I don't know what I was talking about. If you discount mine, the rest of them were great. Nah, mine was good too. It was a great conversations. And I love the fact that you are, building out the platform, the podcast, having the conversations. And so I think you're a great example because keynotes aren't every day. So in between that space, what are you doing to, like we always say in BSN, there's only two stages you can get on: the one you build for yourself or somebody else's. You only got control over the one you build for yourself. So the platform that you built for yourself, the stage that you built for yourself, while in tandem getting on and into the organizations and on other stages has been very impressive, man. So I just want to make sure that folks know that, and they can see you if you are a speaker trying to get better, which I'm sure everybody listening to Free Speaker Game is. One of the best things you could do is look up examples of folks like Mills who are doing the work. And so I just want to applaud you, man, and keep up the great work. And obviously, credible partner here at Black Speakers Network, but man, you are absolutely setting a pace. So appreciate you doing all that you do, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Check out my podcast, Winning at Being You. I'm on the streaming platforms. I'm on Apple. I'm on Spotify. I'm on YouTube. Winning at Being You. Easy to remember. Had some great guests like Brian and many others. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I learn something every time. So when you see me on that video, I'm like, wow, okay, I need to take notes on that. Remember that.
Yeah, I'll be seeing the wheels turning, man. Listen, thanks for joining us. Free Speaker Game is here. Mills, we got to have you back to talk about. I have like 12 more questions. Again, we didn't even talk about the merch and some of the other stuff you got going on, but we'll get to that. And as we always say here in Black Speaker Network, keep speaking up. Your audience awaits, and we'll see y'all on stage.